When I restored this Australian-made PYROX recorder, I thought it was just going to be about bringing an unusual old machine back to life. What I didn't expect was that I would come to meet someone who had worked at PYROX in the early 60s, servicing these machines when they were still in use. This is a chat with Ross King, a former PYROX service technician, and this is a rare first-hand glimpse into the people, the places and the stories behind one of Australia's most fascinating and little-known recording technologies. We're here with Tim and Ross King, and Ross King used to work at PYROX, so keen to get the story of everything you know from PYROX. So tell us about your life at PYROX, Ross.
Well, ever since I was a little kid I was mad on the movies. Not so much the films, but the theatres. I used to love going to it was a really special place to go to the cinema. And all I ever wanted to do was to be involved with it. And I was only a little kid, and we used to go to it was long before television, and we used to go regularly to the local picture theatres. And in my mind's eye as a little kid, all of that action that took place on the stage was actually taking place on the stage, and when the curtains opened, all that was actually happening. And my brother, I had an older brother at that time, he said it comes from up there and there's the beam of light over the head. Well, that was it. I wanted to know all about that beam of light. So that started me on the thing with the projectors. And one Christmas, my brother was given a film strip projector and some film strips. And I was bloody pissed off that Santa didn't give it to me. I ended up, because my brother wasn't that interested in it, I ended up taking it over. Anyway, that was the very early interest in it. Well, even as a kid at school, I went to the local tech school around the corner here, so I haven't moved very far. I went to, it came time, Form 4 it was the time to leave school, and I went into Hoyt's and I got a job as an assistant projectionist. And television had not long been introduced, and they were starting to close theatres down and pulling them down and all the rest of it. Anyway, my mum and dad weren't happy about it at all. I said, look, it's all finished, And a friend of my father's was the sales manager at PYROX. He was, I think Dad used to play golf with him or something, anyway. And he said, well, there's a job going in there for a radio apprentice. You won't be showing films and such, but you're working on projectors and things.
What year was this?
That was 1960. Yeah, 1960, yeah. And anyway, so, oh well, I'll give it a go. So I went in there to work, started with. All the fellas were working there, they were all old projectionists. A lot of them, they'd been in theatres that had closed down, and they ended up getting jobs there. Well, I ended up getting a lot of projection work as a relief assistant around all these different theatres, that I would never in a million years have had access to. And so that was it. But the course I was doing was a radio tradesman. It was at RMIT, and I was never brilliant at it. I muddled through with it, I think, because my heart wasn't really in it. But that was at the time. So when I first started working there, I worked with a fellow, his name was Wally Schneider, because it was a German company really, and a lot of German people worked there. Well, Wally, every second word he used to say was fuck. And I was 16 years old, and fuck wasn't then used so liberally as it is now. And I used to say, oh, Wally, I wish you wouldn't swear like that all the time. And he said, what do you mean? Anyway, I remember talking, and he lived out at Ferntree Gully, and his wife they hadn't been in Australia all that long, and his wife was very homesick. But Wally, I used to talk to him about the war, because not having any diplomacy about these things. And I remember him telling me how that when right at the end of the war, he said we were all given guns, we didn't even know how to fire them, and expected to go and confront the army, the British or the American army. Anyway, Wally was only there about probably the first year of my apprenticeship, and then he ended up going to work for National Theatre Supplies because it was better money. Well, the fellow that came in, had been in the army. Not when I say in the army, he'd worked for the army as a civvy at the Broadmeadows Army Camp, but he lived at Chelsea. He didn't drive a car, so he used to travel every day by train and to Broadmeadows and then walk to the army camp. And his name was Bert Sangston. Well, I used to talk with Bert. You know, I'd be on one side of the bench working on projectors and that, and he'd be on the other. And he'd say, you know, I wish you'd shut up about the bloody pictures. But his grandfather was one of a very early showmen. And I'm in halfway through writing the story up.
How long were you working at the PYROX?
5 years, is the term of the apprenticeship.
Right.
And what happened was then and about a year before I finished my apprenticeship, they got another apprentice in, Trevor. Now Trevor used to ride a motorbike and like the 8 handlebars on it. I was there at PYROX for 5 years. Well, this guy Trevor came in and he had a girlfriend who had a bit of a disability, I think, from memory. And he came in one day and he said, I won't be in on Monday. I said, oh, you know. He said, oh, I'm going to Queensland. And I said, oh, how long are you going to be away for? He said, well, I won't be coming back. And I thought, well, I'm not going to say anything because, when it comes Monday and Trevor didn't turn up for work, and then I think his mother rang to say he wouldn't be coming back. So I was the last apprentice, it turned out. And I'd be probably one of the last surviving from that time, I'd say.
So these were obsolescent when you were working at PYROX?
We used to get them in to repair them.
They stopped making these in about 1950.
Yeah. We get the occasional one in to repair, but they'd gone, and they'd gone to the tape recorders. But I was repairing those old recorders up in the shed, and then they bought out PYROX used to be the agents for a lot of companies, so they had the thing for the Armour Research Foundation, which was for the wire recorders, the tape recorders, and the Victor 16 mils were the Victor Animatograph company of Illinois. I can't remember the state in America, and they had. So we used to do all the Victor repairs. They were also the agents for lights cameras, Sony radios, which you never heard of. I used to repair the Sony little transistor radios.
That's quite different than the rest of the skill set you had.
Yeah, no, so we had the service department, and there was about, there was 2 of us on the tape recorders. I did the light slide projectors for a while, and the 16 mils. So there's 2 of us on the projectors. So there are only about half a dozen of us in the. They had the agency for Fernseh television and Blaupunkt televisions, I always remember.
We were importing overseas TVs.
Yep, that was then. That was the black and white. Because they were like top of the line.
They would have had to be luxury items.
And only wealthy people had them.
Okay.
And I know we'd go on service calls to some of the big houses in Toorak, and you go to the front door, and the maid would come, the tradesman's entrance straight up the back, that sort of thing. And I always remember having to go out with the other tradesmen to do a service call at. It was Cliverton Mansions. You know what the Hilton Hotel is on the corner of Wellington Parade and opposite Fitzroy Garden? Well, that used to be a big old house, and it was converted into apartments. It's called Cliverton. It was a very famous place. And I always remember the tradesman said, the old fella, he said, keep your back to the wall. He likes to touch upwards. And because I was very unknowing in those days, I kept me back to the wall, much to my regret. But anyway, so there were funny stories. And then, as an apprentice, I'd have to go and get the lunches for the fellas in the workshop, and they all smoked. most of them smoked, and when I think back, the packet of cigarettes, and it was about 2 bob, of a packet of cigarettes. But there's a fellow, was a Frenchman, was working in another, not in actually our department, but he for some reason I was out on a job or whatever, and he had to go and get the lunches. And when you go around the workshop, the fellas they'll have names for things. So a piece of fish was a bit of snatch. An apple pie and cream was a pregnant tart. And because they'd say that, and I'd write down exactly I wouldn't write down what it was. I don't know, it's an apple pie and cream, or whatever else. And they used to have all these names. Well, this poor bugger, he wrote down and he went down to the shop and he asked for a pregnant tart. And a terrible thing to do for the development, because he didn't have the big green and French, he didn't have the full intricacies of the language. But there was some funny.
So I think you said they were based on Queensbury Street or something.
Yeah. Actually, now it's a place they do skin cancer. I would have a skin cancer removed, and I was only in there the other week. And I thought, I must take a picture of that. And you can just still make out. On the wall, PYROX services. But actually, in Drummond Street, you've got to go up. You'd have to go up. If you're coming down Drummond Street towards the city, as you come to Queensbury Street, you'd see it now. You can only just make it out.
Right, okay.
Yeah, PYROX sales and
I wouldn't have
service.
even given that a second look.
Yeah. So
I'll have to go and take a photograph.
So there's a bit of that history left.
Yeah.
But certainly, look, it was. So when I look back, it was a good time.
What typically would have gone wrong with these machines? Do you recall what the faults would have been on them?
My main memory of them was the heads would go, and when they used to join the wire, you'd just tie a knot in the wire.
Yeah.
And of course, sometimes that would
snarl.
Yeah,
absolutely. I snarled the reel on this machine.
Yeah, and I think just the occasional valve. That was about all. They were very solidly built inside. But there was a fellow who worked at PYROX. If you go up there, you'll see the buildings on the corner. That was really the service department was in there, and that was the sales and service department. And then towards Rathdown Street, there's a single-storey building. That was the factory where they made the recorders and stuff.
All right.
And they used to call it sound and production or sound and projection. I can't remember which now. And the fella who started PYROX off, his name was, he was a German fellow, Hutter, and he was an old man when I was there. He would have been like, well, an old man, on the age I am now, I suppose. And he used to drive a big Mercedes car, and what would happen was that he'd, Tim's got the bickies there, so you might as well them all. I might just have one of those. Thank you. Thanks, Tim. Lovely. Thank you. He'd been a racing driver in his younger days, and he actually had, up until 1955, he had the Mercedes agency. And of course, you'd see very few Mercedes cars, even well, probably until about 1970, you wouldn't see it. It's just the Mercedes, it'd be like, Hyacinth, room for a pony. And anyway, and I can remember he lived in a big house in Toorak, and it was, the house was sort of, I don't say run down, but it was overgrown, it was a big old mansion, and we'd have to go, and he had a wine cellar, and come Christmas time the wine would come in, and you go down to the dispatch department, which was at the rear door, where that sign of PYROX is on the wall. Yeah. There's a door, well, it's no longer a doorway, but you can see the driveway is still there, and that was the dispatch department. And I remember you go down and they'd be bottling up, or packing up all the wine, from Robert Menzies and for all those people. And there was a fellow there, his name was Eric Willis, and his brother was Jim Vickers Willis. Now, he was a square dance caller, that was very popular. But Henry died not so many years ago, but he went into doing human relations or something, I think, in his later life. But he had polio, and he said he walked with a limp.
Yeah.
And we used to get into doing the projectors. Bloody name. Doug, his name's just gone. He was the Aboriginal fella who became the Premier of South Australia, the Governor of South Australia. He was a football player. But they used to have the Aboriginal mission in North, and he'd bring his projector in. His name's just, it's just a block. Nichols, Doug Nichols. Mm-hmm. And he was just a lovely man. And then there was this fella Eric Willis. He was the salesman. Was he the sales manager? Something to do with the sales anyway. And I remember he'd been in his suit, all the rest of it. And he went down to the dispatch one day, and they were putting a tin of a lid back on a tin of paint. Oh, he said, that's not the way you do it. And he got the bloody hammer, and his bloody suit was covered in paint.
So what did you do after PYROX?
I went to work at RMIT then, in the theatre department, radio theatre, which was in Building 9, the radio school.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
And I was only there, it wasn't much of a job really. We'd have to go around the classroom showing films, carting a bloody projector around, and it was all right for what it was. I think there's only one or two of us left now from then. And then across the road in Victoria, right opposite the city bars, was the State Film Centre. RMIT, it was a building called Campbell's Building. RMIT had classrooms in there. They had radio classrooms on the top floor. I think on the first floor was the refrigeration school, and in the middle floor was the State Film Centre.
Refrigeration school.
Yeah, they'd every so often we'd be in the classroom, in the two room, and they'd have a problem in the refrigeration school, and all the ammonia. We'd have to get out of the building, all the ammonia would come up. Mm-hmm. Then I went to the State Film Centre, and we had our workshop. In fact, I walked down there just a few weeks ago. The building was long gone, the building was falling down even then. I had a workshop where I used to be, and up in a place called Kelvin Place, up off Cardigan Street. That's when I walked through there. An on-sponsored trip was an old terrace house, which was a brothel. Not that I frequented it, mind you. And I still see it.
There still is a brothel on Swanson Street.
Sorry?
There still is a brothel on.
Yeah, well, that's still there, and I was surprised it's been going. That's talking about 40 years, 50 years ago. It was still going. So, and then what happened with me then was that we moved over the State Film Centre. We moved over to what were then the new state offices where the Premier's Department is, because it came under the Premier's Department. And they've got a theatre there, which was
Spring Street there.
In Spring Street. You know.
I know the theatre.
Yeah, well, that
downstairs.
it was sort of set a lot of that up at the time.
Things there.
Yeah.
And then the film centre, we had our workshop and all around the back, and the film booking and all that stuff. And once again, I would be probably from that era. I'd probably be about the last one still standing. And then the film centre eventually that became Acme. You know, that was all taken over, became Acme. But then what happened was there was a fella who was in those days you had to have a projections licence to show films publicly certainly on 35mm. And what had happened, this fellow was a teacher at Maryborough Tech School, and they bought the local theatre, which had closed up, and turned into an assembly hall. Anyway, there was nothing in the town for the kids, so they had the idea of putting equipment in there and running pictures on a Saturday night for the kids in the town, really. Anyway, this guy had to get his projectionist licence, and he used to come down, and he came down to my workshop and asked me if I could help him. And so over a period of time, we'd go over all the things to do with the exam questions and all the rest of it, and then he got his licence and they ran the show, and we kept in touch. And I've still got the letter actually. He sent me a letter and said, look, there's a job going at the Technical Teachers College. He said, I've mentioned your name. I reckon if you put in for it, you might get it. I said, oh, bloody Teachers College is the last thing on my mind. Anyway, so he sent me, so I put in an application for this job. Lo and behold, I go out there for an interview. And the next thing they ring up and say, oh, you've got the job. I thought, oh, I don't know, I want the job, you know. Yeah. And I said, oh, I have to think this over. So I went back to see them. Anyway, there's a famous painting in the gallery called Collins Street on Friday on a 5 o'clock.
Breaks.
Yeah. And that's exactly what it was like. And I thought, if I stay here, that's going to be me. You know, all the public servants with the herald under their arm and their grey coats going down Collins Street because the City Loop train wasn't in. And that's what prompted me to take it on. And it was, so I had to go and do teacher training, I had to go to do study and all the rest of it. But it was probably the best thing I did because it took me out of a sort of pretty, I won't say closed environment, but I broadened my horizons a lot being in the teaching. So I was quite happy. And but then all the bits came home to roost because my apprenticeship at PYROX counted a lot to getting that job, because you had to be, you went in as a trade teacher,
technically savvy, and
you know, and all that stuff. And so I was at the State College of Hawthorn, well, technically Teachers College. Then it became the State College of Hawthorn. It's now part of Melbourne University, but eventually the college was going to break away from the education department. And I'd bought a little place, a little weekender place at a place called Marino, which is 30 miles west of Hamilton. And I used to go up there weekends, which was a pretty long drive. It used to take 4 hours to get up there. And but I loved it, and that's how I came to go up there. And I was teaching at Hamilton Tech. And then at that time, the education department, the salary range used to go from, in subdivisions, it went up to 12, but if you wanted to go to 14, the top of the range, you had to have extra qualifications. So after about 5 years, I put in for study leave to go and do the extra qualification, which I did, and then I'd come back to Melbourne. Well, so I really, and I liked living in the country, I really did, but it was pretty, you realise, well, I realised then that in the city you have so many things at your fingertips, whereas in the country it's a lovely lifestyle, but it's a different lifestyle. You just haven't got all those things. And I look back, but the movies is by my major interest, and so I'm involved with the cinema and theatre hysterical mob, and I've written a lot of articles for them about theatres and stuff and people I knew, and it's sort of a bit of a recording of those people. I think that otherwise it'll just be lost.
It's right, yeah. I mean, just mechanically to restore this is going to be a challenge.
Oh no, look, probably a good clean-up.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I find with the old projector, and clocks are another thing I do. And it's mainly just a clean and oil, and they run forever.
Actually,
yeah, preamp, yeah.
Oh, well, that would be the second stage.
And there's another one in there.
Another one here in a valve shield.
Yeah, and there'll be one.
And that's floating. It is floating.
Yep.
Yes, that's on rubber mounts.
Yep.
By the looks of it.
So why would that be mounted on rubber?
Because that's the first stage, and it would be microphonic.
Yeah.
which means, sorry, I'm
They
not.
ring.
I love the valve here.
They ring. They ring.
So if
You
it
tap it,
vibrates,
you'll
you'll
hear
hear it.
Well,
Right, okay.
Not everything's as rigid as you'd like.
No.
And
Didn't know that.
there was a, if it is a 6
Well, you can have a look.
J7G, which is what I'd expect, there was a professional version of it,
Yeah.
which was actually just selected for low microphonic.
It's a little bit hard to get that one out.
Well, you need to actually take the top cap off to
Well,
start with.
it is. But
Okay.
it's sort of the position
Ah,
of it.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. It's wobbling around in the actual socket.
In the mount,
In
yeah.
the mount, yeah. 6J7.
6J7. Okay.
That makes
Okay.
sense.
Yep. So, and this will be a V6, I think.
Yeah, should be.
And this one, and this 5V4 over here. No, it might just fall for a 5V4, I think. The rectifier.
Or Y3, is it?
Yeah.
Indirectly heated, so it's the Z4. So the electronics is actually spaced around
Yes,
the
yeah.
mechanics.
So I don't think.
You can
Look, I reckon.
someone might have even been you. Someone has worked on this machine.
Oh, could have been, but it was a long time ago.
Now that would have been interesting if it was one that you had touched.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Because when you flip it,
Yeah.
I did remember when I looked.
Yep.
There's a couple of things, a couple of components
New.
do not.
That's been new.
That's new.
That
and
one.
there was that resistor.
Yeah, and that's there.
That capacitor.
That'd be old. That'd be original.
No, that one is, but that capacitor there.
Right.
It's a newer one.
So those two caps and that resistor at least.
Yeah, and these look, well, you know, what's this wire hanging off here? This is,
Oh goodness.
Yeah.
oh, disjointed, I see, yeah, the old,
Well, that's later.
yeah.
Someone's done that after. That's where I said that the wires on this one here as well. The wires off the socket have come loose.
There's another valve here, tucked away, oh, no, there's another 6V6 there, in there,
Right.
yeah.
Oh, there's a bias oscillator as well, isn't there?
Yeah.
Okay, so, okay.
Yeah, there's the oscillating coil there,
Okay.
yeah.
I like the fact this is unusual that the controls are all on extension shafts.
Yes, that's right. I mean, I suppose that they mightn't have had the pots made up with a long enough shaft, so they've,
Well, the alternative is mounting all that up on face plates,
that's
and
right.
that means a lot of longer leads.
That's right. Look, I think you'll find a clean and oil. I think, and it's just checking out your electrolytes and any perished wires. And
Yeah, I mean this is drifting around, which is a bit strange as well.
It's only been
Broken loose or
well, it's
something.
only the little tag mount off there. I might have one of those up in the shed. The old stuff.
Oh, that's the heat connections.
Yeah,
Yes, the heat goes up
But
and
but
down.
this someone has done something to this transformer because see how it's bent here,
Yes.
and the mount it's sort of it almost looks crooked. But whether that's
Yeah.
the original, but it's been for some reason I have no idea why it's been.
Well, yeah. So
not-
I can't see any reason why it would have been done, but
It's almost like they've put a new bolt on there or multiple bolts.
It-
See, that's where that tab
yes,
originally was.
yeah. That'll be right.
Okay.
No, they
Yeah.
bent that back to allow that to get mounted.
Yep.
You sure you didn't do this yourself?
It's a long time, mate. A long time. Yeah. So look, I reckon. You know, you can get that going.
Standing on
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd want to give it a pretty good check.
Oh
You know.
yeah.
I guess the thing is with it is if you know when you go to fire it up to the smoke test, the last thing I want to have happen is it all blows up, and then I think I wish I hadn't done that.
Yeah.
You know?
Well. I use
Variac or something.
Variac on it.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
just build it up slowly, and if there's nothing, you know, obviously wrong. I mean, these are the old paper electrolytes. I mean, they're going back quite a bit.
Mm.
That was another thing I used to do in the workshop too. Was charge up the
Euro
charge up the bloody electrolytics. So here, catch you.
Shock.
And I remember one time they threw it, and I said, "Oh, you thought thought you got me, and I stuck the thing in my pocket and forgot all about it. An hour later, I put my hand in.
It held charge.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Oh, that's very good. I'll have to pull mine apart and have a look.
Well, if
So I've never bothered. The fellow.
you look at the I love even the timer mechanism here.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep. There's
transparent cable.
Yep. I have a feeling that yes, that yeah. Oh look, I think that'd
So I did a bit of digging.
yeah.
This is all I've really been able to find.
Yeah.
There's an article here from someone who Barry Davies, who was in the ABC,
Okay.
wrote this article
Yeah. Yep.
talking about the machines.
Yep.
And then off Trove, I've dug out a whole lot of
those
old
PYROX,
ads, etc. Which, so 14 to 36 Queenbury Street, Carlton.
That's right. Yep.
And articles here, like there's a couple of classics here. There's a small one around this one here. The chairman did not make a speech at the PYROX Limited annual meeting today. Instead, it was recorded beforehand on a PYROX Wire Recorder and played back at the meeting. The recording of a chairman's address for playback at shareholders was unique in the Southern Hemisphere, the company claimed.
Yeah.
And there was one here talking about how when shoppers in a city store heard carols played over a relay system yesterday, they realised that Christmas season finally arrived, but they did not know, though, that the songs were old and the music was supplied by the most modern methods. The relay was from one of the first PYROX magnetic wire recorders manufactured in Australia. The recorder needs no records, can run for an hour without interruption, can obliterate old recordings and make new ones, can play one spool nearly 200,000 times. Yesterday's relay, remarkable for its clearness, was arranged by Mr. J. Manton. The recordings were made by Len Davies on the Hammond organ at the Victory Theatre in St Kilda.
Wonderful.
Music programs, including carols, will be daily feature at Manton's store until Christmas. The recorder is not on sale, but may be seen operating in the basement.
Well, Manton's store is it became Target. It's now Target, I think, in Burke Street.
Right.
That was my aunt used to work for Manton's. So we used to go in there, and it was a department store. And then the Jack Manton collection, he had a big art collection. Now I'm not sure who's got a huge art collection, and he had a place up at Riddles Creek called Drom Keen. It was the country house.
Yep.
And the I don't know if that's still owned by the Manton estate, but it's used for library children's literature library place up there. It's quite an interesting history. Now Manton's was
So the serial numbers were, I'm assuming, sequential, so you'd be able to tell
yes,
if it's
get an
younger
idea.
or older than yours.
And what
based
we
on
used
the
to have
serial.
too, we used to have what we called history cards. They were like file cards, and for all the projectors and tape recorders, they'd have their serial number, and we'd have the history of all the work that was done on them.
Oh, right.
You know, and they were all long gone.
Standard procedure.
Standard procedure.
Yeah, keep the
And I know.
Service records.
Yeah, service records, but it was just like a file card we'd fill out. My memory of it was that the sound was not high fidelity, but it was a nice middle range sound, like a radio, probably better quality than the radio at the time.
I reckon the quality of some of the wheels
Yeah.
that I've got off there is fantastic,
Yeah.
really.
Like, there probably aren't many in Australia.
No, because I don't think the PYROX recorder, I don't think there were that many of them.
There can't have been.
There weren't that many of them.
Why I was really attracted to
Yeah,
it, because I thought it's probably pretty rare.
Yeah.
But
And now, Rio Rita.
This is not a good quality recording.
I'd say it's off the radio.
My
Sounds like
I'm 1912. The place all So that is Shaw Sombreros.